you through the day's 9-game MLB slate. A lot of exciting hitting in particular to talk about, but also some pitching. We'll work them both in as we always do. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always on Thursdays by my buddy, the baseball savant himself, Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well. Hopefully we are streaming right now. Yep,
Yep, we
yeah, I
are.
just saw
Hey,
us.
we did it.
There
We're
we
on
go.
YouTube. Why?
So
Great to see you guys on YouTube.
yeah, so no Periscope only today. The YouTubers get to see us, but yeah, I'm doing well. 9 games and had a successful degenerate slate. Made some money on the early, so I'm ready to give it all back to all of our viewers on the main.
Yeah, and if you're ready to give some of your money back, all the money you've won from watching all the tournaments, not all the tournaments, all the shows that we have here on the YouTube channel, all the money that you've won in those tournaments, you can go get an Osmo.com premium membership, an Osmo Plus membership, better than it's ever been with all the ownership projections, the rankings, the projections. You can just plug right into Fantasy Cruncher, the deep dive column, also the lineup builder tool. A lot of things on there that'll make you make better DFS lineups every single day. So use that promo code live before lock for half off your first month or week of any Osmo Plus package. Jake, let's talk pitching up top here because it is a day where we're going to have some very chalky pitching industry wide. I guess a couple of guys here, though it has come down a little bit for them. But Jacob deGrom, I feel like we should hit on first. He's going to be the number one guy. Actually, he'll be tied now for number one on DraftKings. In a decent spot here, St. Louis, a very good run total going against him with 3.1 implied runs for St. Louis. The strikeouts maybe not there as much as you'd like to see, but he's been good on the year with 11.2 Ks per nine. Decent swing strike rate as well, just under 15%. What are you doing with deGrom today? Are you matching the field? Are you going above it? What are you doing?
I'm gonna get pretty close to matching it. He's not one I'm taking a big stand on. Like I don't think this is a crazy underprice or anything. And Laffy kind of talked about it, me and Laffy this morning on the strategy show. Like he's definitely underpriced here, but he's got a ton of ownership on him, so I don't want to handcuff like all of my lineups or close to all of my lineups by playing a 10-4 pitcher because I love some of the expensive bats tonight. But yeah, he's an awesome play. It's a low implied total against him. Some people were worried about the weather. I'm not just yet. I don't think it's going to have an issue playing. So yeah, nothing holding me back from deGrom. I got to about 32% on my last crunch I did before this. So that's a number I'm comfortable at. I'd like to be higher, but I also want to prioritize some other bats tonight.
Yeah, I'm at about 40% on deGrom, which I'm okay with. It was hard for me to get away from him, and I would have liked to get some Cardinals in there. I would have liked to gone a different way, but I really just didn't see it again. It's one of those slates. Same thing yesterday with Verlander, where in the beginning of the day, I think sometimes you come in with this goal of, oh yeah, here's a pitcher, he's going to be really highly owned. I'd like to get some leverage on him. I'd like to go different ways. I did that with Verlander, but I still ended up with like more than the field of him. And that ended up being the right move, and I feel similarly about deGrom. I don't think he's quite as good as Verlander. But also going against a team who's not as powerful as the Brewers were yesterday, so it kind of came out in the wash. And I'm just willing to go to deGrom today and not feel too bad about it. But I guess we could use this to jump to the other side of the equation with Jack Flaherty. A little bit less into it there. He does project well for us with our projections at Osmo.com. But I don't know, man. Like the Mets blow up top-owned pitchers. I feel like every single time there's a top-owned pitcher going against them. And Flaherty to me gets good strikeouts, but he does give up a lot of home runs. He does give up a good amount of hard contact, 40% hard contact on the year. I think there's enough signifiers where I have Flaherty, but I'm a little bit under the field on him. What are you doing with Flaherty?
I'm just a touch under the field on him as well. So I got both him and deGrom in the 30% range. Good pitching environment. I think good matchup for Flaherty, especially this bottom of the lineup. The top could present some issues with the lefties because he's got huge splits for his career. And we dug into it this morning a little bit, but he's got a really good slider. That's obviously going to be a pitch that's beneficial to use against righties, not so much against lefties. And he doesn't really have a changeup, and he's far from having a good changeup when he does throw one. So the lefties have been an issue for him. That's where you're going if you're looking to leverage against Flaherty. But yeah, there's nothing holding me back from playing him. Like I don't disagree with him being a really chalky pitcher because he's just better than 7,300 in this spot. Especially for a lineup that he's going to get 5 righties plus a pitcher. So 2/3 of the guys he should have a pretty big advantage against here.
Yeah, I think that's about where I shake out with it too. I mean, like Pete Alonso, I think I would put in a separate class than the other righties because he just hits pretty much everybody really well. A 7% home run rate versus righties on the year. And he's not quite as good as he is versus lefties. He still doesn't get quite as many hits with a 237 batting average. but he's a guy who can break it up. And as you mentioned, the lefties there, McNeil, Conforto up top. Dominic Smith, I'm not quite as into, but he's not as bad as actually I think in my head that he might be. So yeah, I don't love Flaherty as much as DeGrom, just because I think DeGrom has a degree, I guess, of a floor, whereas Flaherty, I think I could see him just not having the potential all around today. And there are guys in that price range you could go to as pivots, which I think would be what I would want to do for tournaments.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about any of those guys? Who do you think is a nice pivot?
So I'll offer up J.A. Happ first, and he's a little bit higher price. So, I mean, you are paying a different price there, but I think you're getting a different lineup because Happ is going to be just about 10% owned on DraftKings. And Happ, to me, is a guy who's starting to figure it out a little bit as the year's gone on. On paper, still not very impressive, a 5.6% home run rate on the year, which is up from 4.2% going back to last year. And his strikeouts have also been down, just 7.6 Ks per nine on the year, which are down from 9.2 going back to last year. But he's turned it around the last few starts at over 20 fantasy points in the last two. And this White Sox lineup strikes out 27% of the time versus lefty pitching. So I think they may be getting a bit slept on. And there are some people who I'm sure in the chat right now as I'm talking will be saying, oh, yeah, Happ is going to be really bad versus the White Sox. He's been bad multiple times against them. It's a different White Sox team, and the strikeouts are there in this lineup. So I'm willing to go to Happ. What do you think of Happ as a potential pivot, I guess, as an SP2 or even an SP1?
I don't mind it as a pivot, but it's not exactly in the same price range compared to a guy like Flaherty, $1,400. That does make a big difference to me tonight. So I'm not getting to much Happ really at all. Like, he was at 12%. I got it just 3% of Happ on my last crunch. So he's not a guy that I'm going to play a ton of. Honestly, like, I'm just not pivoting all that much off of Flaherty in this range. But he has looked better, I agree. It is a different White Sox team, so I wouldn't pay attention to like the BVP against Happ if that even exists. You pay attention to the 9 guys he's facing that day, and if it's a good matchup long term, like that's really all you have to do. And it is a fine matchup for him here. He's just not missing as many bats as I would like him to. But you're right, the White Sox do help you in that category. So striking out as much as anyone versus lefties. So maybe you're onto something here. But I just didn't get to very much Happ.
Eventually I will be. Even a broken clock, Jake is right twice a day. But but yeah, no, Happ, I mean, look, I like farming for pitchers that are lower owned because I do think that's one advantage point we have from the jobs that we have, is being able to look at the data all day pretty much, and also be able to see people commenting. And I just noticed a lot of people commenting on our videos and on the stuff I did today, the Four Corners video I do, the short form video every day on the channel. Strategy show too, some comments there. A lot of White Sox love for people. So I think our ownership actually may be coming in a little light on them. And if I get leverage with Happ, and I think he's kind of getting there. He's rounding into form in a way which I'm appreciating. He had a good day versus Boston. I think if you had a good day versus Boston, you could have one versus the White Sox. And that's my hope with Happ. You give me one, Jake. Who would be one of your guys who you're getting that perhaps the field is a little bit light on?
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go through this. This is a guy who I don't really like much at all today, but like when I look at him as a pitcher and I look at the strikeout matchup, but I got to more Ryan Yarbrough than I expected. He usually doesn't project out this well, but for under 7K, he does make for a decent pivot off of Flaherty at basically a tenth of the ownership. If Flaherty's going to be around 40, he's going to be in the 3 to 5% range, somewhere in there. It's more of a pivot than anything, or like an SP2 option, or a guy you could play with Flaherty. But he's a guy that's allowing me to get to some decent bats. He's a minus 145 favorite. He does have okay strikeout stuff. The Angels just never strike out. So you're looking for him to go 6 innings plus here and maybe rack up a handful of strikeouts and just kind of be okay. And I would take that for under 7K here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think there are a couple guys here in the price range. Like Stroman, I think really is one who I found interested in. People in the chat are asking about. I think that Baltimore strikeout rate, again, I think we saw it yesterday. And this is something that we talked about on the show yesterday with Josh. And with Sean Anderson, he was a guy who on paper to me just seemed like I didn't really get why his strikeout numbers were that low based on what he's done. And he's going into a matchup where the strikeout numbers are high for the team across from him, also in a park that's going to benefit. Stroman is in a park that doesn't benefit. He's in a hitting park. But I think the same thing here. He's maybe the results have not been quite there as much for strikeouts, but he's been okay at limiting hard contact, keeping the ball down. Again, the Orioles have a 27% strikeout rate too versus right-hand pitching in this lineup that they have today. So I think he's a guy for me who jumps out as being somebody who's worth having, kind of in a similar way to Anderson, but not quite the same circumstances. Would Stroman be a guy that you would go to?
I like Stroman as a pitcher. I thought I would get to more of him here, but I got to 6.7%. So what is that? 10 lineups on my last 150 that I filtered down to. He just doesn't project out as well as Flaherty for me. So that's the issue. It kind of all revolves around Flaherty here. I wouldn't mind a few more Stroman shares, and it is a fine matchup against Baltimore. It's not a good team. I mean, you just look up and down this lineup, and it's pretty rough outside of maybe VR and Trey Mancini. So there are strikeouts here for Stroman. He just doesn't seem particularly interested in getting a ton of strikeouts. Like
I'm sure he doesn't want to at all. He's just kind of going through the motions.
He actually has given voice to he just wants to have like efficient innings and get ground balls and stuff, and he's been really good at that for his career. So I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it and try to be going all out to get these strikeouts when you can just get a nice, easy ground ball. But,
yeah, no, that's fair. I guess I would still think if the strikeouts present themselves, you would take them if they were there.
For
and
sure.
This lineup does have a bunch. As I mentioned, the overall rate's about 27%, but also really every hitter besides Rio Ruiz and Anthony Santander are significantly over the league strikeout average. And then Rio Ruiz is just a little bit underneath at 22%. So there's a lot of strikeouts to be had here, and that's what I'm willing to target with Stroman. And I think the hitting park, not the best, given that Stroman does give up some contact. Though, as Jake mentioned and I mentioned too, not many fly balls. It's 27% fly ball rate on the year, so he's keeping it down. And that should help him out here a little bit in Baltimore's park, which is going to give up a lot more hitting production generally. What about Homer Bailey, Jake? He is a guy that a lot of people have talked about today in the cheap price range. Very affordable overall. And in a not bad spot here going against Detroit, given that they also strike out at a decent clip at 26% versus righties. Any Homer Bailey for you?
Yeah, I got to some Homer Bailey. I thought I was going to get to more, honestly. I got to around 20% of Bailey. So anytime I don't have to make a massive stand on him, I think I'm okay with that. He's just a guy that's 5,200 and pitching, and he's stretched out, and he's going against a team that strikes out a bunch of versus righties, the second highest K rate versus righties for the season for Detroit. So there's a lot of things to like. Bailey also can miss bats, I think around 11% swinging strike rate, which is pretty solid. And yeah, he's just kind of a guy that if I end up on because he allows me to get Coors or another expensive stack like the Yankees or something like that, I'm fine with. What say you?
So I didn't get there quite as much as I usually do with a crappy pitcher who does have okay strikeout stuff, just because ownership is only at 14% on DraftKings right now. I thought it would get a little bit higher, and I mostly am staying away from this game. I have a little bit of Detroit and a little bit of Bailey, but not an appreciable amount of either. I think I'm with the field on Bailey, or actually a little bit underneath it, and I'm under the field on Detroit. I don't know. I didn't quite get there naturally with projections, and I don't know. Like, I like some cheaper pitchers better. I'm actually struggling to figure out why I didn't quite get there as much, but I just didn't force it, and it didn't occur for me naturally with projections, so I just was willing to kind of not get there. But you're right, it's not a bad spot, and the situation for Bailey is he's not giving up a ton of home runs on the year, and that actually may be due to positively regress for the hitters, where he's got a 3% home run rate on the year, but a 4.1% home run rate going back to last year, and every other stat. I mean, the swinging strike rate's up a little bit, so maybe that is a contributor as well, but still giving up a lot of walks and hits, a 1.5 whip, still 9.7 hits per nine. Numbers are bad, and I don't know. I just don't trust it. It feels a little trappy, even though the price is kind of hard to ignore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just fine with him. Like, whenever I get a pitcher like this, it's like, can you give me 5 innings? Do you have a huge restriction? No? Okay, well then I'm probably going to play you. And because there's another guy like that I'm getting around the same as Bailey. I don't even want to say his name. I was worried this was going to happen, but how much Ivan Nova are you getting?
So not a lot, because the Yankees are my top stack of the day, which we'll talk about stacks as we always do in the back half of the show. But I have a little bit of Nova. I am actually, I think, above the field on Nova because I have 2 lineups out of 20, and he is at 6% ownership. So technically, Jake, I will share that with you. I'm above the field on him, but that's mostly because I have an ass load of Yankees, and I just felt like, all right, well, if they bomb, at least Nova maybe could be okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, is if the Yankees bomb and you get a $4,400 pitcher that gives you 12 to 15 in there, you're probably in a pretty good spot if another expensive stack goes off. So I'm kind of giving away my expensive stack, like my favorite stack, without really talking about it. But that's why you're seeing the pitching exposures I have, like with Bailey and Yarbrough and Inoa. Nova. So I don't think Nova is good, but he can theoretically go deep into games. If things go well, he's terrifying to play. Like if I was playing a single lineup, there's absolutely zero chance I get to Nova. But in 150, he's going to sneak in a handful, maybe even more than a handful, maybe even like 15%.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing, if you want to look for a positive with Nova, is that he's another guy who's kept the ball down pretty well, a 27% fly ball rate on the year. That hasn't stopped him, though, from getting a 4.1% home run rate and also not missing bats, 8.4% swinging strike rate. So, yeah, not a lot of reasons to love Nova, but that price, I mean, that's about as cheap as you're going to find for a starting pitcher anywhere. And it is a revenge game, Jake, in case we forgot. Ivan Nova's stint for the Yankees. That is carry Tommy Malone the other day. Maybe it'll carry him today.
Tommy Malone versus the Twins yesterday. Dude, he had like 50 pitches at the end of the 6th inning, or like he was like in the 7th inning. It was outrageous. He's working hard. They were just popping up every time because he throws so slow. But it was funny to watch. Like he was just going bang, 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 like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, he also knew that EMAC picked Nelson Cruz at an unfair timing on the show yesterday, and he didn't like that. He wanted to get revenge for me, so I appreciate that, Tommy Malone. Whenever a pitcher can do that for me, I really do appreciate it. Let's see, anybody else a pitcher? How about John Gray? I feel like we should go through and try to cover the pitching about as adequately as we can. John Gray's a guy who gets swinging strikes. Also, obviously, no guy is a stranger to pitching in Coors. San Diego is going to be really highly owned, and in fact, now they are so highly owned that the top stack tool has them perhaps a little bit over-owned for what their potential to be the top stack on the day is going to be. We have them projected for 13.5% ownership, and they have a 10.7% chance of being the top stack. And the values are there. The ownership is there. I think John Gray is a bit interesting as leverage, and I do have some of him. What about you, Jake?
I don't mind him as leverage. I thought I was going to get to more of him as well, but because I'm trying to pay down, I ended up below the field, or I am below the field right now. That could certainly come up depending on how his projection changes based on the Padres lineup that we just got. So all the lineups are in now. The only change that I see is Austin Allen in for Austin Hedges, and maybe I can't remember if Greg Garcia was expected to be in batting ninth, but Tatis.
I don't think he was. He was on Fantasy Cruncher, but I don't think he was on the actual lineup.
Okay. Tatis, Hosmer, Machado, Renfroe, Reyes, Myers. I think all those guys are expected to be in.
Ooh. Yeah, the Hedges thing is going to be bad because that was a guy who I think we had as being the top owned position player before. Or we might still have him in ownership.
Yeah, so Hedges was going to be really chalky because a $2,900 catcher in Coors, so that might move things around a little bit. I would imagine Allen's going to still be pretty popular. But going back to Gray, bunch of righties.
And no Naylor either. That was one.
Naylor. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Going back to Gray, it is a fine strikeout spot. I mean, he's shown he can get swings and misses in Coors. The strikeout numbers have been solid. He's striking out 29% of righties about. And the Padres strike out as much as any team, even more than the Tigers versus righties for the season. So that alone puts him in play. Whether or not you need to get to him is kind of a different story when you have a guy like Flaherty, or you can go all the way down to Bailey, Nova, Inoa, one of these guys.
Yeah, I think for me the thing is just, we all know the strikeout numbers for the Padres. They have a 28% strikeout rate versus right-hand pitching. And again, just a ton of ownership. I mean, and as Jake mentioned, I'm sure that'll shift around a bit. Hunter Renfroe also being in the lineup is somebody who I feel like people were anticipating being in there, given the power that he has. Also Austin Allen sucks. Not really. It's going to mess up all my Austin Hedges lineup. It's not great. Anyway, I think it's a good spot to go for leverage because Gray can get strikeouts. He's just under 10 Ks per nine on the year, 9.6. And that's a good number going against a team in San Diego. Just strikes out a bunch. And the hope is that you get also a really big leverage point on the chalk. And I don't think you need a lot of Gray to get above the field there. He's only 10% owned, or 9%. So,
yeah. We just got word that David Fletcher for the Angels is scratched. I don't know exactly who's filling in for him just yet.
Okay.
He was expected to lead off, so that might shift some things for people.
Oh, good. All the lineups were in nice and, I mean, not all of them, but most of them were in nice and early, and now everything has to get screwed up in the last minute.
We'll for sure get a scratch with like 4 minutes left in the show.
Can't make it easy on us ever. Anybody else at pitcher you're getting here? How about Clayton Kershaw? Do you have any thoughts on him holistically? The deeper dive guys talked about him at some length, but he does grade out well in terms of being able to at least limit damage, but the strikeouts haven't been there quite as much since when he was the ace du jour of Major League Baseball. Any Kershaw for you?
It's just so weird to talk about Kershaw as like not the elite of the elite. Like, he still is a very, very good pitcher. And 10-1 here, 2 or 3 years ago, you would love to play Kershaw here, and he would be mega chalk, but it is a tough matchup against the Cubs. He's not quite getting the same swings and misses as we've seen in years past. That being said, I don't really want to go to the Cubs, but I am getting to a little bit of Kershaw. I would imagine he's going to be in that like 10 to 15% range in lineups where I literally can't get up to DeGrom with the extra $300. So he's not really that close to DeGrom in projection, but could he outscore him? I suppose it's possible. I'm not really counting on Kershaw all that much tonight, though.
Yeah, I mean, Kershaw to me, just the thing is the strikeouts aren't there for him overall, but I guess the Cubs lineup does strike out pretty well, 25.5% K rate in this lineup versus left-hand pitching, so that's not a bad spot to be, and you're getting Lester in there too, strikes out 43%, so that should theoretically be an easy one in a lefty-lefty matchup, but I didn't quite get there. The price, and I just didn't feel the need, and he's an interesting pivot, I think, to DeGrom, if DeGrom were to just have the worst day possible, and then Kershaw maybe strikes out a little bit more than he's been doing, and the team total is low, so I don't hate it. I think if I had 150, I might be more inclined to go there. But for a max 20, I feel like you got to choose your angles, and Kershaw's not a guy who jumped out enough to be worth that.
Yeah, that's fair. I doubt that I end up over the field on Kershaw.
Anybody else that you're getting that we haven't hit on so far? Any Matthew Boyd, another pivot potentially I guess the highest priced guy on the pitching slate?
I don't know if I got to Boyd at all. I got to 5% Boyd. So that's fine. Like, if I'm going to have a pivot of Boyd at 5%, I don't mind. He's been fantastic, but he's not DeGrom. It's not I just don't want to pay, more for Boyd than, I'd rather pay for Kershaw, I think, than Boyd. So he's just strictly a pivot for me. And then the other guy that we haven't really talked about, I don't think, is David Price. He is my third highest owned pitcher behind DeGrom and Flaherty right now. Do you like Price at all? Because
I do like him, and he didn't pop at all in our projections. And actually, now I kind of want to look at that because I wonder why. Because I just didn't get there. I think I might have 2 lineups of him. So that's so significantly under the field. I like the spot for him, and actually the deeper dive guys said this too, and I noticed it when I was doing my video this morning. He's been really good on the year. He's got 10.4 strikeouts per 9, limiting the hard contact as well, 33%, swinging strike rate to 12.5%, his whips down to 1.05. So Price has looked pretty good when he's been out there pitching this year, and Texas has been really bad versus lefties. So I kind of wish I had gotten there more. But yeah, I didn't, and I think he's actually a really strong play. I'm surprised actually I didn't get more of him. I think it's just projection-wise, it's going to bring you to DeGrom more often than not.
Yeah, that's the problem. But I think it is a good matchup for Price. I mean, it is a good matchup. He's a huge favorite here, minus 236. He is getting swings and misses, much higher than I thought as well when I double-checked the numbers earlier today. So he's just been really impressive, and it's a fine strikeout matchup for a guy that's a massive favorite. And he's not mega chalk either. So I've got no problem with Price. I was exactly at 22% of Price, which is what he was when I ran my last crunch.
Oh, also Ian Kinsler's out of the lineup for the pot. So that lineup did change quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that thing. So that's, I'm looking at my Padres lineups now. I'm like, oh yeah, these are all completely wrong. So that's helpful to know.
We just we just got a projections update. I think we just got an ownership update. I'm not sure if that included Fletcher out of the lineup and LaStella batting leadoff. So that might be one thing, but you could probably start crunching safely if you're waiting on that last lineup to be updated.
Yeah, Austin Allen's taking a major jump in ownership. Not quite as much as Austin Hedges was going to be, but still, Austin Allen is now a top 7 owned player on the slate. And Manny Machado also up too. And David Price also up. Good for David Price, I guess, getting in there. We are at the halfway point of the show, and that means it is time, of course, for Dong picks. And the Dong standings, Jake, since the last time we did the show, I know I talked about it yesterday and you were actually in the chat, but I'm going to do it again because it benefits me to talk about it again. There's now a tie for total dongs in first place. I'm now tied with EMAC with 12 on the year. Jake and Josh, in terms of total dongs, are behind us both. They're tied with 10 on the year. And then Josh overall in total correct picks is in last place. To enunciate that correctly, he's in last place, 4th out of 4, with 9 correct picks on the year. So that's tough for Josh, isn't it, Jake?
Yeah, tough time to beat Josh. But, I'm sure he'll bounce back or something, but not quite. Oh, okay. Give me 5 minutes for Fletcher in ownership, Tom says. All right, cool.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, but
tough time to be Josh, but
yeah,
he'll get
it's
back.
hard out here for Josh. Very unfortunate that Josh is in last place. I won't. I'm reluctant to mention it so many times that Josh is in last place. It just hurts me to have to say it over and over again that Josh Engelman is in last place. But he
Yeah,
is. It's not a pizza roll contest. It's a home run picking contest.
can
So
tell
Jake,
that really pains you. Yeah.
I know it hurts me so much to have to say out loud that Josh Engelman continues to be in last place. But Jake, who are you going to go with for your pick?
All right, all right. All my guys are Coors guys at the top. So
Uh,
in that next tier, I will take. This might be. Wait, I just saw this guy. Now I need to search for him.
I don't want it to be my guy, so I'm going to say Didi Gregorius before you say
No,
yours.
no, no. It's not Didi.
Okay.
Good pick though,
Thank you.
against Ivan Nova. This is kind of a weird one. I'll take Avisail Garcia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think Skaggs is a good pitcher, and I don't think it's a great park, but I do have a lot of Avisail, and he does have power versus lefties, and he's leading off, so extra plate appearances, I like Avisail.
51% hard contact versus lefties for Avisail.
Yeah.
That's a big number.
He's healthy this year. Last year he was hurt.
That's actually another fun thing to know. We like to talk about the Rays in general on the show because we've talked about the theory that whenever the Rays give up on you or buy in on you, it's because they're smarter than the other team. They are the Patriots of MLB in that respect. 4 of their top 5 hitters have the highest hard contact numbers on the slate. 49% for Tommy Pham, 49% for Yandy Diaz, 51% for Travis d'Arnaud, which is not paying off, but 51% for Avisail Garcia as well, and that is paying off. Kind of interesting to note, though. Like, they must be really looking at the hard contact numbers.
Yeah, that's very possible. They're obviously into like sabermetrics and stuff, so they're one of the sharper organizations. And the one thing I will say that can be a little bit misleading, and I don't even know if it is, but I wonder how they're tracked at different stadiums, like the hard hit percentages. Because a couple years ago, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago, it was the Tigers who it was like every hitter in their lineup had like a 42+% hard hit rate. And it was something I was looking at, and it felt like it was like broken at their stadium. So I don't know if it changes or the way they track it changes from stadium to stadium or something. But just something to think about at least.
Yeah, it's interesting to note. Also in the chat, Adam Burst is a regular in here. Why do you have to take the chalkiest bat on the slate? DD is actually very not chalky on every site, and it's a weird thing. So people throughout the day, I've seen chiming in on the content and saying like, oh yeah, like the Yankees are gonna be so chalky. They're not chalky anywhere still. And like the ownership's gone up a little bit, but they are, let me double check the top stack tool because we've gotten an ownership, an update in there as well. But they were like the 6th owned stack for a while, even though they had a really high chance of being a top stack. Okay, so right now on DK, we have them as 14% chance of being a top stack, but only 7.3% owned. On FanDuel, they have a 14% chance of being a top stack, but only 8.5% owned. And on Yahoo, 13.5% chance of being a top stack, and only 4.4% owned. The Yankees are under-owned today. I just I don't get what the discrepancy is, but everybody seems to think they're chalk, and they are not based on what we have.
So people in like a sport like this, in a high variance sport like this, and it's like this in hockey, but there's not really sufficient ownership projections. But people think that just because a team is like the most popular team on the slate, like you can't play them in a variance-based sport, or it's bad to play them long-term. But every slate is a new slate. Like a team can be chalky but under-owned, and it was hard for me to grasp when I came here, but now that I've started to understand it and you can see it with this top stack tool, it makes so much sense to me. So like a team can be, 15% owned, but if they're 25% to be the top stack, you should be playing a lot of that team, or at least considering playing a lot of that team with multiple lineups.
Emac also going with Gary Sanchez for his pick of the home run, so I'll put him on the list as well.
He's trying
also,
to troll you back.
Yeah, that's a perfectly fine pick. That's fine.
That is.
I have a lot of Gary Sanchez too, so I hope Emac is right. I hope he's correct about that one. And Emac also not in last place, unlike certain other people who are named Josh Engelman, who is in fact in last place. Also, people in the chat too. To be clear, I want you guys to play the Yankees. I don't care, but they're not chalk based on ownership projections. I think we're looking at the ownership projections that come from some of the top players in DFS, so I tend to trust them more than people in the chat just declaring people chalk. That's the way it kind of works.
You can play chalk also and be different. Yes, everyone can identify the chalk, but there's a way to get around that by playing good lineups as well.
Dave in the premium Slack asking, any issues with the Blue Jays? They are in a rain delay.
No issues with me right now. I'm not seeing a postponement risk in the projections, but yeah, I'm good on the Blue Jays right now.
He's talking about Didi individually. Again, Didi's still only 14% owned. I don't know what to tell you guys. Let's move forward though. Let's talk about the top stacks. I guess let's not move forward. Let's talk about the Yankee stack since we're already all over about it. Yeah, not as much ownership as I would hope for or would assume there is. I think a lot of people are going to be going to Colorado. A lot of people will be taking the deals on San Diego in Coors. Those would be the reasons I think jumping out that people would be there. Also, people trying to leverage against Homer Bailey seems like it'll be a popular option based on our ownership projections that we have at Osmo.com. Toronto also going to be pretty decently owned as well. So there's a lot of ownership split, and I think people may be sleeping on the Yankees a bit in their potential here. So how much Yankees are you doing, Jake?
I am closer to the field on the Yankees, and I'm able to get all these expensive bats because I'm going cheap with a lot of my pitching. But the Yankees aren't a team that I'm like making a massive stand on. Looking at some of their ownerships for the Yankees hitters, let's see. I have Hicks is my highest guy, then Gregorius, then Voit, LeMahieu, and Sanchez. But all those guys I have in like the 8 to 10% range. So not like I'm around the field. Like Sanchez is 7%. You mentioned Gregorius, but he's my highest or one of my highest exposed guys. So I'm around the field on the Yankees. It is a good spot against Nova. Definitely understand that, but they're just not my favorite stack.
Yeah, and as we talked about with Nova before, there are some dings going against the Yankees in terms of Nova not giving up a ton of fly balls and being able to keep the ball down in general. But I think if anything, that gives them a better chance of having guys on base getting hits, and then hopefully a guy like Didi driving in the runs. But yeah, I think it's still a really good spot for them, and I'm heavily above the field on them, and I'm going to go down with that one today. But I will also go down with them not being chalk. I don't know why everybody wants to disagree, but if you want to disagree, you use the ownership projections at Osmo.com and change your worldview. See all the numbers at once.
Yeah, or make your own ownership projections.
Yeah, or make your own spin-off site and make your ownership projections. Then we can argue about Yankees chalk on the two sites. Give me your top stack then, Jake. It's not the Yankees.
It is the Colorado Rockies. It's the Rockies by a landslide on both sites, and they're in Coors and they're undervalued. Like they have a 6.4 implied total, like highest in the slate by a pretty good margin, and they're not being played enough because of their pricing. So I'm going to figure out a way to play them as much as possible. And that's why I'm going to these really, really cheap guys against Strom. I know someone was saying in chat earlier that Story versus lefties in Coors is a terrible play. Story is my highest exposed hitter on DraftKings, and it's not really all that close. Arenado, Dahl, Murphy, and Blackman are right behind him. So all the Rockies tonight for me against Strom in Coors here.
Yeah, wherever I could force the Rockies in there, at 5-man stacks I'm on, 3-man stacks I'm on, one-offs with both Story and Arenado, and mini stacks with them I'm also on. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Strom hasn't been bad, I think is one thing we should say up front, or at least from where I sit. Versus righties in particular, he's got a 0.9 whip. I'm only giving up 6.2 hits per nine, also just a 3.3% home run rate. Some of those numbers are helped out by pitching in Petco, pitching in San Diego year-round, which is going to benefit a pitcher. But still, the lefty numbers are pretty egregious. Even though he's a lefty pitcher, his splits have been really bad versus lefties. A 1.7 whip compared to that 0.9 whip versus righties. 10.9 hits per nine to lefties compared to 6.2 versus righties. So I think people may sleep on some of the lefties here. Charlie Blackmon hitting leadoff is going to be only 11% owned on DraftKings, it looks like. He's a steep price to pay, but even in the lefty-lefty matchup, it could be a good spot for him. Guys like Ryan McMahon, too, who also has a weird lefty-lefty positive split where he's got a 141 WRC plus versus lefty pitching. I think there are some guys you can go to who are left-handed who are going to be lower owned, and they might be in just as good of a spot going against Strom.
Yeah, that's fair. So you said you were trying to – how much Rockies did you get to? How many Rocky stacks did you get to out of your 20?
I've got a lot of Arenado. Let me double check my.
No Story though, because you can't play Story, right?
Yeah, no. With the preponderance of Didi that I have, no, it's tough to get to Story quite so much. But I have a lot of Arenado Didi combinations. And yeah, I think in general I'm at about a 15% overall stack and significantly more of Arenado. I've got a lot of Arenado.
Strom is elite. Strom is actually not bad against righties. I disagree with Strom being elite. Yeah, he's a fine pitcher. It's Coors Field. I just it's a massive total here, and I'm playing the Rockies because they're overpriced. But that just means that people aren't gonna play them as much as they should be probably.
Yeah, and Strom to me, like I agree. I don't think he's an elite pitcher or anything close to it either. But I think he's been, like I mentioned, we just talked about the splits. I think he's been better than people realize. But also he's given up a lot of fly balls, a 42% fly ball rate. Also giving up a ton of hard contact at 47.2%. That's really the one you need to worry about because he's given up that much hard contact to both sides of the plate. That's 50% of the balls that he's getting out there are going to be hit hard for most likely. And then when they get hit hard, that's when they go. That's when they become doubles, triples, or home runs. So yeah, I certainly don't think Strom is good, and I think there's some signifiers here. Being in Coors, kind of a bad spot. If he's not missing bats, he's screwed, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean anyone is.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you don't want to play Coors, there's other spots, but for me, it is definitely a Coors night, and most of my night is going to revolve around whether or not that game goes nuts, specifically the Rocky side.
Are you going with a good amount of Tony Walters, given the fact that he's going to be fairly cheap and also low owned, and I guess probably a forgotten part of the stack?
Let's see here. Walters. I mean, I got to under 10% of Walters, which is what I want. Like, he's not a guy I want to try to include in the stack. If he shows up in a few of my Rocky stacks, that's fine. He's not a good hitter at all, and he gets put in those stacks a lot of the time because he's cheap. Tonight he's 3,700, so it's whatever. He's not getting super high ownership or anything. People are going to go to Allen because they know that Walters sucks. But yeah, most nights I don't want to get Walters in my Rocky stack if I can avoid it.
Yeah, I think generally I've been trying to go with the rule of thumb where if I have a full stack, I'll just tack the catcher on there. But I think Walters is one of those guys, kind of like Jeff Mathis, but not quite as bad, where if I'm getting him a lot, I would prefer not to have him. And I think going with the field on that or a 10% cap on Walters, I think is more than enough.
Jeff Mathis makes Walters look like Barry Bonds.
I don't know about that numbers-wise.
Walters is bad, but Mathis is he's in a category of his own.
Well, all right. So on the year, so this is versus both-handed pitchers. Jeff Mathis has a 2 WRC plus and a 0.9% home run rate, as well as a 0.049 ISO. On the year, Tony Walters has an 83 WRC plus, 0.6% home run rate, so he's not hitting dongs either, but a 105 ISO, and actually a 301 batting average. So that's actually not bad for Tony Walters on the year.
I want to watch the Rockies broadcast just to say, Walters is having a great year, 301 batting average. It's like 50 plate appearances.
He's almost league average in terms of creating runs.
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to use WRC plus, okay, but yeah, they're both pretty bad. But Mathis, my God, is he terrible? Good thing he's good at framing pitches or whatever.
Did I miss dong picks? Yes, you did. I have Didi Gregorius. Jake has Avisail Garcia, and Emac has Gary Sanchez. And Josh Engelman, last place, Josh Engelman has no pick reported in. The precincts have not reported in last place Josh Engelman's pick.
Why didn't Josh put a pick in? He was just in chat.
He's afraid of decreasing his numbers even further.
All right, well,
I'm like trying to goad him out.
Shooters.
It's like poking the bear in the hopes that he does get in the chat and get a little feisty. But
we're Russell Westbrook, baby. Let's go. You gotta take as many picks as you can.
Yeah, it's true. Who else should we go to? I guess who's the stack that you want to hit on that? People are asking about Toronto as a stack. I think Boston, I'm also curious your thoughts about because I did like them a little bit more earlier in the day, and their ownership's still not quite there, but their percentage of being the top stack according to our top stacks tool isn't the best either. What are you doing? I guess which do you prefer to talk about, Jake, or which do you have more of, Toronto or Boston?
I don't have a ton of either one, but I do have more Toronto just because they're really, really good values, whereas Boston's only like, values. So I've got Gurriel, I've got Vlad Guerrero, Rowdy Tellez across the industry is really, really underpriced. Where is Tellez hitting? I know I saw this earlier, but I thought he was supposed to hit higher in the lineup, and then he came out as one of the guys.
He's hitting fifth. So
okay.
I think that's about usual. Well, actually, he was in sixth yesterday, I think, but yeah, he's usually around fifth.
I know he's really chalky on FanDuel, I want to say. But anyways, yeah, Toronto's a fine stack against Ynoa. Ynoa is not a great pitcher. You've got that bad Baltimore bullpen behind him, and the game's going to start in a delay, but it looks like pretty decent hitting weather, wind blowing out. Looks pretty humid, 75-plus degrees. That's that's fine with me. They're just going a little bit over-owned as like a full stack, so I'm going to get guys more as minis than anything.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm about with the field on their ownership, and knowing now that they're going to be a little bit higher owned and they probably should be compared to their chances of being a top stack does make me a little bit less interested. And honestly, I ended up with more of a full stack of the Blue Jays, even though I really don't always love full Blue Jay stacks, kind of for the reason we saw yesterday, and that's obviously isolating a very small sample size. But Rowdy Tellez gets most of the production there. Nobody else really adds a ton of value. I mean, Sogard I think had a home run, but besides that, the full stack didn't quite get there because they're not great hitters across the board. They're guys with power who will occasionally smack one in. And I've been trying to full stack them less for that reason, but still did it today. And the prices work and the opportunity does work for Zenoa, so I don't mind it, but not one I'm like proud of. I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, we always play guys we're not proud of, right?
No, that's true. I'm always proud of my lineups, but the ones with Toronto, I'm the least proud of.
I'm playing Ivan Nova tonight, so.
Sure. When he dusts the Yankees at high ownership, when everybody's like the Yankees actually are chalk and Ivan Nova is the greatest play ever, that'll throw you for a curveball.
Yeah, that's just baseball.
Curveball than Ivan Nova has.
Yeah, does he even have a curveball? I think he just throws batting practice, 75 right down the plate.
Yeah, meatball after me. That's actually his only pitch type is meatball over and over. Somebody in the chat asking about a Rays stack, and you did mention Avisail Garcia as being a guy you like. So how are you going with the Rays stack? You going full on them? You going mini stacks? What are you doing?
I'm going full Rays stack. They're kind of my second one behind Colorado tonight. Good prices, I think, for some of these Rays bats. Obviously, I obviously love Tommy Pham is a great play as well. But like even like Yanni Diaz and Darno and Adames, I like quite a bit. So they're coming up as secondary stacks a lot with Colorado and the more expensive teams, the few Yankee stacks that I have as well. I don't think Skaggs is a bad pitcher at all, but you're seeing a near 5 implied total in Tampa. This team has a ton of power, even though they strike out a lot. And Skaggs give up a lot of hard contact as well. So, yeah, give me some Rays here. They're not going as, I mean, they're getting ownership, of course, but it's not like outrageous ownership for the chances of being the top stack.
Yeah, I think it's fair, and I landed on a little bit of them because I think they do provide some decent value, as you mentioned, and it's not a bad spot going against Skaggs. Skaggs does get strikeouts at a pretty decent clip with 9.2 Ks per 9, but he does give up that hard contact, and again, as we mentioned earlier in the show, the Rays have been generating a lot of hard contact, and even though the park isn't that favorable, it's not a bad park by any stretch this year. So yeah, I don't hate that move, and they aren't going to be that owned, so sure. You said no Boston, but how much Boston is no Boston?
Not no Boston, but let's see here. I got to. Oh wait, I just messed up my exposures. Let me fix this quick. Like I didn't get anyone. I don't think above 10%. Any of their hitters, which I was a little bit surprised to see, but just some other better spots. Let's see where we're at now. Actually, I got JD at 13%. That was my highest guy outside of Price. JD and Mookie above double digits, and then everyone else 10% or below. Benintendi, Bogarts. I don't know. If I'm going to a value team with a similar implied total, I'm going to Tampa, like I just mentioned. Although Boston's has come up a little bit, so I don't think Samson's bad. He's had a good little stretch here. I think it's not completely real, but Samson's not a guy that like a total gas can or anything that you just have to stack against. I don't think.
Yeah, he's done it. So like I think he's due for some negative regression because he is giving up some hits. He's given up 10.1 hits per 9. Also given up 45% hard contact in general. But he's only had a 3.1% home run rate, which seems kind of low. And the deeper dive guys also talked about that, about how he's had some signs of life, the swing strike rate coming up, and he does get a 10% swing strike rate. So that's not as terrible as a lot of the pitchers that we would qualify as a gas can or guys like more likely to get blown up. So yeah, I think I share that sentiment, but I still was willing to get some mini stacks. Like JD, I still think is in a good spot. Betts as well, I think is in a good spot. Those guys are both under 5K, and it feels like they probably shouldn't be for this matchup, especially when you're in a lineup with Bogarts being over 5K or at 5K. I'm willing to take those guys at what's relatively a discount and not a ton of ownership.
I got to way more Kershaw than I anticipated, and I honestly don't really know why. Did his projection change a ton?
Skaggs's?
No, Kershaw.
Oh, Kershaw's. I don't think it did. I think he's still under a 2x value.
That's weird, man. So I got to. Yeah, I'm a little bit perplexed right here, but yeah, I guess I got a lot of Kershaw. I'm fine with that. He's a fine pitcher. It is a low implied total against him, but was not expecting to see 30+% Clayton Kershaw tonight.
Yeah, that is a lot of Clayton Kershaw. I said the reasons I don't hate it. I mean, if he just has to get more strikeouts, which sounds like an easy thing to say, but in a spot versus a team that does strike out a good amount versus lefties, I don't hate that play. I think it's an interesting pivot to DeGrom.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, look, the numbers told you the story, Jake. Now you just have to ride with it.
I know. I just, God, I hate that when I get someone that I wasn't expecting to be on heavily, and then all of a sudden now you're on that person. It's like a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yep. I agree that's Roboso asking can you recap who's winning the Don calling contest in the premium Slack. I can do that, but I guess Josh made his home run pick in there too, so it's worth going back to. So to circle back on the home run picks, again, in the tie for first place are me and Emac. In second place is a tie between Josh and Jake in terms of total home runs. But in last place in terms of correct picks, unfortunately, is Josh Engelman. So perhaps he'll dig out with his pick of Aaron Hicks today. Maybe he can get his way out of out of last place that Jake has now just pulled away from him, I think, really safely. He'll never catch up to you, Jake.
Yeah, not a chance he catches up to me here.
You're just going to ice it away. You're just going to go on a 500-game streak or a 500-day streak where you won't be able to catch up.
Abbasale is going to triple dong, and then it'll be history from there.
We can only hope. We can only hope. We have a lot of Yankees today, so maybe the Yankees are chalk, at least for home run picks. All right. What else stack-wise are we getting? Anybody weird? Any Dodgers for you? They're popular, I think, or more so on FanDuel, and I've seen some people talking about them a little bit today. Not a bad spot versus Leicester, but not one I was dying to get to. They did go with a righty-heavy approach going against Leicester. The lefties have been kind of buried a bit in the lineup. I don't know. It's an interesting spot, but not one I got to. What about you?
I actually have gotten less and less Dodgers as I've continued to crunch. So I got to some Kike. The spot against Leicester is like they're lower priced than they should be. I think there's no doubt about that. But should they be like the top values on the night? I don't necessarily think so. So that's why I didn't get to as many Dodgers as maybe some other people did. Like I got to no one above double digits besides Kike, it's looking like right now. And I'm fine with that. I don't know. It's just not one of my favorite spots against Leicester. As much as I hate Leicester, he's not a guy that you should just stack up against, even with a really, really good team like this.
Yeah, I think he does a good job kind of limiting the damage, even though the stuff is not there for him quite so well. He's really not missing bats with an 8.1% swing and strike rate. He's getting 8.5 Ks per nine, which actually seems kind of high given his kind of not great stuff and also not being able to miss bats that well. But yeah, I think I'm with you that I think he limits stuff well enough. I don't hate the stack, but I just didn't get there and didn't feel the need to force my way there. So it is what it is.
It is what it is indeed. All right.
Anything else that we should hit on here? We really haven't talked at all about the Arizona-Washington game, and Arizona does kind of have some interesting options going against Eric Fetty, who's pretty bad versus the left side of the plate, and Arizona does a lot of guys in that top of the order who are really strong versus righties and hitting from the left side of the plate. Any Arizona or Washington for you at all?
I'm not seeing really any of their hitters come up for me. Soto, just because I always get to some Soto. It looks like I got a couple of Washington stacks, but like there's nothing in this game that I'm heavily targeting. I'm not crazy about Greinke. I'm not crazy about Fede. He's not one of my favorite value pitchers. I'd rather just go down to Inoa or Nova or Homer Bailey for less. It's just not a thoroughly interesting game for me. Is there something, like I know we forgot to talk about it. We're not really talking about it much, but is there something here that we're just missing?
I got a little bit of Washington in some lineups just because I think the prices work and theoretically Greinke can give up some power production. So I did get there a little bit, but I think that was more of a conduit to just getting away from the other lineups that I have a ton of ownership on. So yeah, I honestly kind of wish I had a little bit of Arizona. Like I like this spot just looking at the numbers again because Fetty's giving up a 1.7 whip to lefties and 10.5 hits per nine. And I do think Arizona tends to go underappreciated throughout, and also that Washington bullpen's pretty bad. So if you get knocked out early, going against a really bad bullpen. I think the worst on the slate by a decent clip. So yeah, I don't hate the stack for Arizona, and I got to Washington, and I guess that's about all I can say for both.
Yeah, it's just not a super interesting game. I'm hoping that one stays pretty quiet, but now that we're talking about it, I'm sure it's just going to go nuts.
Yeah, Sir Dave in the chat saying Arizona bats. Yeah, Arizona bats one. Sometimes you kind of develop a blind spot as you go into the teams that you like the most, and you kind of miss out on some of these guys. But like David Peralta still at a good price as well, hitting lefty. Hasn't really gotten priced up to return from injury. It's tough prices for Dyson and Marte, but I don't hate those guys. And Walker has a good amount of power as well. Even if he's going from the right side of the plate, I don't mind that spot. And your boy Eduardo Escobar too, not a bad one.
Yeah. Eduardo Escobar's my boy? I mean, I'll take it. He's been decent.
I mean, yeah, no, he was your boy at one point. He's not your boy like the other dude. But yeah, he's in that tier of your boys, I think.
A tier of my boys. Yeah.
Who's the other dude I'm thinking of? The Reds guy.
Suarez.
Oh yeah, Eugenio Suarez too. Yes, but I think Escobar was kind of a similar clip at that point. But yeah, Suarez has pulled away with your heart more than Escobar has.
Suarez will always have my heart.
Escobar, I feel like both Josh and I on shows with you last year made a lot of Escobar season jokes, as you were always like, Eduardo Escobar is looking pretty good.
He's always looking good. That was the thing. I wasn't telling lies.
Let's see. Oh, McCod in the premium Slack asking for our Paul Blackburn pick of the night. Of course, an award that goes to the cheapest, possibly worst pitcher who could end up in a tournament-winning lineup. Jake, who fits that criteria today? You only have one choice. You named him. He's your guy.
Who's that? Nova?
Yep.
All right, I'll take Nova. I think he could be in a tournament-winning lineup with like 12 points.
Yeah, I would. So I have a little bit of this guy because I think he's interesting leverage on the field, and Nova would be my pick too because he's the cheapest and also a guy I have some of. But Inoue, I think, is a little bit interesting. If Toronto's going to be highly owned, I think Inoue's he's not good by any stretch and really hasn't shown any signs of life. But Toronto does strike out a decent amount, and if he doesn't give up that power, maybe he can get it done. So he'd be my pick.
You sound so enthusiastic about it.
No, he's terrible, but once Nova's off the table, all the excitement leaves the room.
That Paul Blackburn of the night is a win-win for us because if we're wrong, we're expected to be wrong. If we're not wrong, then it's like, wow, great call on Ivan Nova, 15 DK points. Wow.
Yeah, it's true. People will really be happy with that $4,400 return on their crappy pitcher.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna bum me out though. As long as he gives up a home run to Didi, he can do as great as he wants.
I have to disagree with that, but I understand.
Anything else, Jake, that you're getting in your crunches, which is surprising you, perhaps? Anything that you're now running through him that you didn't expect? I guess besides the Kershaw thing, which, by the way, Josh has your back on.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. He must have jumped up, or Alex must have liked the lineup that the Cubs rolled out or something, or the Vegas totals move or something like that, because I was getting to like 15% of Kershaw before, and I got up to 37 on DraftKings, which worries me a little bit. What's that?
A lot of Kershaw.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a fine spot. He projects out okay. Maybe it's just an ownership thing because he's 16% owned compared to DeGrom, who is 36%. So as more of a pivot in my chalkier stacked lineups, like when I'm stacking Toronto and Detroit or something like that, maybe he's showing up more in those kind of stacks.
Are you doing one of the leverage-based formula things like Josh and Adam do?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that's why, like, I add up total ownership, I add up projection and leverage and all that, and then there's weights for it. So that's probably why. But I usually have a good idea of who's going to show up. Like, I'm not surprised about the bats at all, or really the rest of the pitching. So like Colorado is my top stack. Did get a little bit more Toronto than I anticipated, but like Tampa's up there. Got to some Detroit. The Dodgers got pushed down. And the Yankees are still, like, I'm around 10% with a handful of their players. Pitching, like I mentioned, DeGrom, Kershaw, then it's Flaherty, no surprise there. Price, no surprise there. Same thing with Bailey. Yarbrough went down a little bit, and Noah came up a bit, and then Nova went down just a touch, but still at about 10%, Ivan Nova.
Yeah, a little spray and pray for the cheap pitchers. That seems like the approach.
Spray and pray. There you go.
That's actually on my family crest. This that very phrase. Also, one quick note, we do have some time left for questions if you want to drop them in the YouTube chat or the premium Slack, but you go right now to the @Awesemo_com Twitter. We are doing one last giveaway, well, I guess not maybe more than one, but if the series ends tonight, is our last giveaway for NBA on the year. If you go there right now, all you have to do is guess the sum total points that the Splash Brothers, that is Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, score tonight. If you get that right, you could win 1 month free of Awesemo Plus. So go right now, check the pinned tweet right now on the @Awesemo_com Twitter handle. Go see that now. Also, Fast Eddie will be going live, I believe, in about an hour and change. And I think also going with Rinpack today. I'm not sure, but I would assume still doing that duo, that fantastic duo you're getting. So hopefully Rinpack has learned how to sing Boys to Men overnight like we asked him to on yesterday's show. Did you catch that, Jake? I mean, you did. You were here for it.
I was there, yeah.
But yeah, Rinpack, just for anybody who wasn't watching yesterday, our boy Rinpack has been hosting the NBA shows with Eddie, was not born in the country and was born in 94. So he has some really good reasons to not know Boys to Men. Unfortunately, our own baseball savant, Jake Hari, is not the R&B savant and also does not know.
We were born in the same year, but yeah.
You're an American.
Yeah, but I missed out on that. So
that is as pure Americana as it gets, the early 90s, late 80s R&B of Philadelphia.
Yeah, we were naming boy bands and stuff in chat for like 20 minutes.
The people really enjoyed boy band chat. It might be a special hour we do where we just discuss boy bands coming up.
What about, do you have any new takes about the rain in New York? Because I don't.
I refreshed everything just now and I'm looking at it. I don't know. I think for the pitching, what I saw earlier today was that it might be able to go 5 or 6 innings, and that's more what I am. I didn't get to a ton of hitting for the Mets. I think I have some one-off guys just to try to get there in case Flaherty blows up. But I think DeGrom and Flaherty seem like they should be okay, would be my guess. And if we have no postponement risk, I just got to play it like the stuff that we have. And yeah.
Yep, no postponement risk. That is good enough for me. And you basically have to make the decision within 6 minutes, so I'm not changing that decision.
No, you got to make your choices and ride them out.
Yeah, exactly. There was one more thing. Oh, the basketball game tonight. I'm not seeing any questions, so did we miss anything quick?
No, I think we got everybody's stuff.
What do you got for tonight? What's going to happen? I know you wrote up the primer, so everyone should go read that. It's free on the site. But
yeah, I think it's an interesting game tonight. I think what I'm going to try to do with my builds is I think everybody's assuming that Golden State wins and forces a Game 7. So I'm going to try to get the story, and this is something that Eddie talks about. I'm sure we'll talk about in a stream today, where if you set the narrative for your showdown lineups, that's kind of the wise move. You're thinking about how this guy's going to perform, how it affects the overall. So I'm going to have a good amount of lineups that focus on a Raptors win and how that occurs, and that's probably Steph Curry faltering, maybe also Klay faltering, and maybe there's more rebounds because the shots aren't falling.
Right.
But yeah, I in my heart, I want the Warriors to do it, and I think they do. But I think you're going to be contrarian if you are going to go with a Raptors heavy lineup in the hopes that they blow them out or just win handily. What are you thinking, Jake? You're a showdown expert.
I don't think I'm playing, but I want the Raptors to win very, very badly. The Warriors had their little comeback in Game 5, but I just love watching Kawhi, and I'm kind of over the Warriors. The quote-unquote humble superstar, Steph Curry, the guy that shimmies after every three. I don't get why he gets to be the humble superstar, is my thing. But, that's just a little personal bias I have. I just want the Raptors to win. I hope they close them out tonight, even though I would like to see a Game 7. I think that'd be pretty cool as well.
Yeah, Game 7 would be fun. The symmetry, too, of them being able to come down from 3-1 or come back from 3-1 after they were so vanquished a couple years ago in that spot after Draymond kicked LeBron in the nards. That was a tough situation, but I like the poetry of it. I guess on the other hand, I don't like having to do another primer for Game 7 on the weekend. We're weighing all the factors. I would say that, but yeah, I would be inclined to want one more try with Game 7, and it's hard to top a Game 7 as we saw yesterday with your boys in hockey.
Yeah.
Game 7s are a fun vibe, even when it's a blowout. That was a fun one for the people of St. Louis and anybody who just doesn't like Boston.
Yeah, that was a fun one for sure. And it was weird, too, because Boston completely outplayed them for like 18 minutes of the first period, and then they got 2 quick goals scored on them. And then they never really rebounded. So, yeah, Game 7 would be cool. But for your sake, I hope they close it out tonight.
Yeah, I hope so, too. But if not, that'll be coming out on Saturday. I'll be doing another primer for Game 7. Game 7s are fun, so I'm willing to sacrifice for the name of the people. But I think for tournament builds though tonight, I think if you go Raptors heavy, I think you will be a bit different because everybody just assumes Game 7s occur when in fact I feel like they're pretty rare to occur for a championship series.
Yep.
All right, so that's it. We hit the like button on the way out, guys. We do appreciate all the likes. We didn't pander for likes during the show, but we try to just keep focused on the content. So many things to talk about, so please do that. Also, use that promo code live before lock. We have a lot of night slate content every day. Our management team, our founders of Osmo.com, are one of the better people, or one of the really better players in the industry in terms of night slate content. They bring all of that to their ownership projections and rankings and the top stacks tool. All of those are updated as we go. So go check that out with the promo code live before lock and get half off your first month or week of any Osmo Plus membership. And again, go hit the Twitter handle as well. Twitter, @Osmo_com is the Twitter handle to go to. The pinned tweet is all the details there. All you have to do is do some following and some retweeting and then guess the total points scored between Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And you can win that free month of an Osmo Plus membership. And that'll be other sports too, not just NBA. So you can get there, get all your MLB access. It's every sport you want to get there, PGA as well. Any plugs for you, Jake? Anything you got coming up?
No, hockey's over. No projections to talk about until October. Just baseball from here on out, pretty much.
That's right. All right, so keep your eyes peeled on the channel. Subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know whenever we have new content coming up in the next few days. We'll be here all weekend for you guys, so we appreciate the support. And yeah, that's all we have tonight. So good luck, guys.